Buenas, buenas. Welcome to In the DAW. I'm Kevin Ochoa, and today we're going to be taking a look at my top 10 plugins of 2017. Now, first of all, I want to preface this by saying that not all these plugins were made in 2017. That's because making VSTs is much more difficult, especially synths, as compared to making plugins. VSTs, you have to create the audio signal yourself, which takes a lot more math. So companies don't usually release VST, synthesizers, etc., as often as they do effects. So without further ado, let's get started. My first pick is Transistor Bass. Now, Transistor Bass is an emulation of the Roland 303. Now, I think this is the best emulation that has ever been created because of the resonance and the cutoff. Now, check this out. This really trips like the real 303. Not only that, but it does the squeals really well. Let me look for a different preset. Yes, as you guys can hear, that high end is very much like the actual real 303. And there's actually a video from Imageline themselves where they compare it to the real 303, and you can barely tell the difference, if any. But I'm gonna go ahead and go to my next pick. Now, my next pick is actually was released in 2014, and the reason I use it now is because back in 2014, I feel like Spyro really fell under the radar because of Serum. Now, every synthesizer that year fell under the radar because of Serum. Now, this thing sounds amazing. Let's take a listen to this pattern that I made with it. It's a really big fat saw synth. Now, it could do a bunch of other stuff like FM synthesis and many other types of synthesis as wavetable synthesis as well. However, what this is really good at is getting that dance sound, kind of like the Virus TI. It has a bunch of different emulation of filters. The Perfecto filter is an analog digital hybrid. We have the Acero, which is a 303 emulation filter. Infecta, which is the Virus TI filter. And we have other filters as well. Not only that, but we have an ARP section, a step sequencer, and four LFOs and four envelopes. And we also have a matrix. Now, it's a very powerful synthesizer. I believe it fell under the radar back in 2014, but I'm using it alive and well, especially today. Now, my third pick for this year is Massive. The reason I picked Massive is because of its huge library. Now, I'm working more with productions now, and I don't have time to spend on my own presets. When I don't have that time, I make sure I use Massive and use a browser to find something that's close enough to what I want. For example, if I want a bass that sounds like a DJ Mustard type of bass, I'm hooked up with with a preset like that. If I want something that's like a dark bell, something that's a bit more dark, there we go. If I want something that sounds like XYZ, I can find it inside of Massive because so many people have used it, and at this point, it's an overdone synth, which is good for finding presets. Now, one of my favorite plugins that came out this year is actually Repro. And the cool thing about Repro that you just saw is this tweak section. So on the top section, we have the regular synthesizer. Let's go ahead and play the pattern that belongs to that. As you can hear, that filter is extremely smooth. It sounds very, very warm. It sounds very, very close to the real Pro One. Now, the reason it sounds like that is because the guys over at Yuhi decided to go over five different Pro Ones, and what they did was they took all the different models and used the different chips, the different filters from different models, and added them to this plugin. So let's take a listen to this plugin once again with the basic filter that was on it. I'm gonna change it and let's hear how it sounds. It's subtle, but you can hear it, especially when you go from the crispy to the driven section, because we have a bunch of high end at top, but with the driven one, there's a bunch of low end coming in at the bottom. Let's look at our ray candy. You can see how when you use the crispy one, there's a bit more high end than with the driven one. Now, this synthesizer comes with a ton of presets from some of the best people who make presets in the game, and I absolutely picked this up in a heartbeat again. So we have my next pick is Circle 2. Now this plugin is actually very, very cool. It has 4 oscillators. In addition, we have a noise and a feedback section, so 6 oscillators in total. And let's take a listen to what I came up with here. And this synth is very versatile. We have a bunch of different type of oscillators. We have an analog oscillator, wavetable oscillator, which when we go into here, there's a bunch of different wavetables. We also have BPS oscillator, and this is all a bunch of fun stuff. Now, all these modules, you can actually link them up with each other by dragging and dropping different parameters and do modulations like that, which is very, very cool. The developing team works a lot on this and works really closely to people. So if you become part of the actual user base at the Future Audio Workshop website, you can actually help in the developing of this plugin. And that's why I do like it because they listen to us, the customer. The next plugin I chose is the Serato sample. Now, this is the best and smoothest sampling VST I've ever seen. It's a plugin that everyone who works with hip hop, anyone who works on sample based music should have. Now, if we grab and drag this sample in, we can clearly see that we have our, uh, our different instruments. We can see that the lower end is red and the higher end is brighter. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick out one of those toms in there. Zoom in a little bit, and I'm gonna hit one of my keys on my keyboard, and now this will actually select my sample. So now I can actually start playing with this like an actual MPC. I'm gonna go ahead and get a hi-hat. Now, I'm not a drummer or anything by any sense of the word, but if you're a hip hop producer, you can definitely make some beats with this. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the next plugin, and this is something that will work very well with Starter Sample. I'm gonna go ahead and raise this volume button and check this out. We're gonna tune in to a radio station. Actually, let's reload this real quick. Now, this sent me to a random radio station, but we can select which one we want up here.
Smith Block, Mombazo, and a tune called.
Now, what's cool about this is that we can sample straight off from this plugin. I'm gonna find something that's not gonna get us copyright stricken. That's something that we can sample, and I'm gonna go ahead and select this section and save it. Now it's saved. I'm gonna drag it into Serato sample. Lower that volume back down, and now we have that sample in Serato sample. Not only that, but Serato Sample has actually tempo mapped it to our beat, and that's a one cool about thing about Serato Sample that it maps to your BPM because it's actually a DJing software like I have down here, and it's really smart. It's really advanced what it goes on in the background. And now again, we can search many of those drum kits and select them, and we can actually play like with this like an MPC once again. Yeah, I'm not a player by any means, but this would be something that's extremely fun and extremely useful for sample based producers. Again, we have Serato Sample and Radio by Credland Audio. And for the next plugin is another sample based plugin, and that's actually Regroover. Let me close back Synthmaster. I want to keep the sample based theme going right now. Now, Regroover is a really smart plugin. I'm going to go ahead and throw this loop in there. It's going to analyze my loop and check what it's going to do. It separated all my audio into different little tracks. So I have my toms, my hi hats, claps, and I have all my different parts of the loop inside different tracks now. My shakers, and I think this will be a tom or a hi hat. I mean, a tom or a kick. A tom. Awesome. So there's other analysis tools to separate this further and actually get everything really clean. And in the pro version, you can actually go ahead and start even more analysis. So you can get rid of everything completely. Now, this is not just a good tool for people who work on sample based music, but it's also good for people who are mixing. For example, if you have bleed, you can remove some of that bleed. For example, over here we have those those claps. Let's say we have claps that have bleeding on them. We can remove the bleeding section on the pro version of now. I advise you guys to check it out. It's a really cool plugin. It also has a expansion kit that you can where you can load up MPC style drumming and has a bigger editor inside the pro version. So check that out. Now I'm gonna finish off with Synthmaster One. Now Synthmaster One is a synthesizer that was made by KV331 Audio, and this synthesizer is meant to redeem themselves after the massive, not mess, but the difficulty that was working with Synthmaster. It's a great plugin, but the fact that everything is in submenus just made it unappealing for even the best synthesis. I personally had this. I liked that there was a bunch of presets to go with it, but I hated actually making my own sounds in this. So, because of the lack of workflow inside this Synthmaster, people just weren't using it. So they had to go and make a new one called the Synthmaster 1, which is the thing they should have released first instead of the other Synthmaster. Now, as we can see here, we have our oscillators, our filter section, our LFOs, our amps, our mods, everything in one page. But it still retains some of those features from the old Synthmaster. Very cool. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this one. Very cool. It also has a step sequencer in there, somewhere in here. I forget what it is because I still don't use this very much because I've been using a lot of Spire. But I do love how this sounds. I like the fact that it's basically Synthmaster in a cleaner version. So I definitely check this out. And we also have effects section right here, like distortion and all that. Very good stuff. So I think these are my favorite 10 plugins that were released and some of the ones that I used this year. Learning how to use presets again was actually really strange for me, but really helpful that some of these plugins have great preset libraries like Repro simply because it saves me time. But when I want to create my own sounds, I absolutely go with Spire, and that's this is my favorite plugin at the moment. And all these sample based plugins again, they're fun to work with. They're really smooth to work with. As you can see, I can work from one plugin to the next simply by dragging and dropping, and that's super beneficial. Now, with this, I'm going to end the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, that you learned something new. And I'm Kevin Ochoa, and I'll catch you guys within the DAW next time. Peace.